Hello friends, ADC here from the lowlands of eastern Scotland. Today is the 13th of December 2018. So as I had promised last week, I'm going to be starting to go through the backlog of requests that I've had over the last few weeks, and this one is from my dear friend Charles, which had commented already quite a while back when the video came out, maybe September or October, on my autonomous vehicles video and my thoughts on those. And the question was mostly what my thoughts were and of the implications of this accelerated development, technological development, which is bringing about structural unemployment, or at least imminent structural unemployment in sort of many aspects, many parts of the economy. So the first thing, two things came to mind. The first one is the term Luddite, which in the English language it essentially means a person who is either inept with technology, or is scared of it in the sense that they are threatened by it in a sort of an innovation sense, mostly threatening the unemployment, which is exactly where the name comes from. So I did a little bit of research because I wanted to know exactly what this term meant, and turns out the Luddites were a group from the early 1800s, early 19th century, which in the UK, which essentially started breaking machinery, textile machinery, due to the worsening working conditions brought about by the automated technologies. Now, turns out it's not exactly true that these workers were either inept nor 100% threatened by the technology, to the sense that they didn't want it at all. Of course, the relative truth, coming from a few articles I've read around, the Luddites themselves do have a website. Apparently, it seems to be theirs. And then I've read a few articles on the Smithsonian's Institute. Of course, links in the description for these articles, where essentially they had a few demands, and the major one was that of improving the distribution of profits from these companies to the workers, because of course the wages were dropping. The Napoleonic Wars had just ended in the end of the 1700s, or was thereabouts, and the normal work day of most people was about work week of these people was about 3 to 4 days, essentially either making stockings or cutting sheets of fabric, and the life was quite pleasurable in that sense. But the competition from these mills brought about, of course, a depreciation in the sort of the value of that work, and this sparked firstly protests, and then violence to sort of go and destroy this machinery. And the ones that were targeted mostly were those companies or factories which mostly depressed the worker wages, because there was a bit of a response where some companies, some factories did increase the wages of their workers, distributing the profits a little bit more evenly. So then this all escalated, a bit like the Gilets jaunes, and that's why I'm wearing this. Just felt like it would have been funny if I did, and then the government intervened with soldiers protecting factories, and then killing people, but putting also a death penalty on the destruction of machinery, and putting sort of, how do you call, bids on their heads, on people's heads, if they were engaged in this sort of activity. And it all culminated with a spectacle, with the hangings of some 5 or 6 of them in a public square, and the protest died out fairly quick after that. So the protest was largely unsuccessful, both in redistributing what could have been the profits of this increased innovation, and more importantly, the technology kept going forward. So that's just a bit of a background on what Luddites are, and how it kind of links. I will bring a few links to how this relates to modern ages. And then the other video that a video that I watched maybe 4 years ago, yeah, because that's when it came out, 2014, CGP Grey, link in the description, of course, titled "Humans Need Not Apply," which is a video showing how, at least in Grey's opinion, the threat of technological advancement and at this rapid pace is perhaps even understated by most tech experts and the media. And there's quite a few examples, and it's very interesting, so I do strongly recommend you to watch this video. It's very light, even though it's about a quarter of an hour, and it's enjoyable, and perhaps a little bit scary even. He does point out that, for example, horses the population of horses peaked about in the 1920s, and then the car was invented and it always started dropping ever since, and that there's essentially no employment for horses, and they wouldn't be able to do enough to get enough hay to live in their own stable, so to say. So are we seeing that in the future with our technological advancement? Well, it's very possible that we are, and the conversation we need to start having is a couple of ones. We need to probably reopen the initial Luddite conversation, which sort of demands, which was that of a better redistribution of wealth from the profits of a capitalistic sort of high intensity work. So these algorithms that can intensify the work and replace many humans with just one piece of software or a certain bit of technology. The problem with that is it doesn't really make sense with some free market forces. Of course, we don't really have a pure free market because we've got quite a lot of regulation, especially in the UK and Europe. But we do still operate with sort of free market incentives in the way in the sense that that's how innovation is driven. It's driven by the price as a mechanism for telling the market where the demand is and how to innovate and where to cut the costs. And I don't think it's possible to redistribute wealth in that way. If you do try and tax those that are productive, and by productive I don't just mean the humans but also the capital, then you will maybe most likely see, and as we've been seeing, a delocalization of the companies to perhaps the third world, which is exactly what we've been seeing. So I don't think that's going to be very successful, even though you're going to try and use those taxes to perhaps increase the welfare programs for those who are structurally unemployed. But the other thing then we need to discuss is what people are going to do. Now, I don't particularly have a problem in the sense that I don't think that people will just be sitting on their ass, not doing anything, and starving. We will probably see an increase in the lifestyle, in the sense that more technology will bring more time, theoretically speaking, to those who are able to have a job, and those who are not is the major issue. Are we in for a market recorrection? Probably yes. And what does that even mean? But I don't want to get into these discussions about perhaps a post-apocalyptic or a market crash that would probably need 4 or 5 videos just on its own. But we do need to start opening this conversation. What are these people going to do? And you know what? I don't know, and I wouldn't know what I would do if, say, the chemical engineer or any kind of thing that I can do would be replaced. So that's about it for my thoughts of today. I just wanted to say that today, being the 13th of December, is actually the 11th anniversary of when I first opened my YouTube channel. Not this one, which I'm posting to, but my other one, which is the one I'm posting to is the one linked to my Google Plus, which is still the same login. But so yeah, I'm actually thinking back about all the videos that I've made over the past years, how many of them have actually been removed due to various terms of service violations, which I seem to be very prone to, especially when I was a child, well, a kid. So that's about it. ADC signing off. Keep your up. pupil.